Okay, now we've been through that. The last video on skull morphology was really information intensive, and you could be starting to feel like you're on information overload, like, oh my God, there's so much to know. And it is true, drawing a face can be, we have artists that have done it, like Frank Miller or Rembrandt, people who have really drawn beautiful, beautiful portraiture. And for some people, that's their entire job, is just drawing portraits. So, but it can also be wonderfully simple. Okay, so even like if you think of a wonderfully expressive character like Charlie Brown, he's really like a circle and a line and something like that. And I mean, that gives you, oopies, you can't even see it. See, that gives us like a little something to relate to that in some ways is plenty. So the other parts of the skull are a little bit, when you start developing a more complicated skull drawing, it's a little like kind of FYI. Okay, so but let's talk about procedure. Let's talk about how do we then go about drawing? How do we then go about drawing a portrait and incorporating some of the information that we've just learned? So the first way that you always start a drawing is that you're always going to start a drawing with a kind of gesture drawing. You see this like loose flowing line drawing that just starts to describe in a really general way what's going on, like what our figure is doing. And then the next thing that you want to do is you want to start to, in a really general way, you want to start to look for the big masses, so that's the big mass of the head portion, right? And this will be the big mass of the thoracic portion, of the rib cage, okay? And now the next thing that you want to start to do is you want to start to orient things. And here's how you start to do that. One way is by putting in a center line. So if I just put in a center line, you see how this figure starts to turn a certain direction. A way that I've been taught by Glenn Vilpo, watching him working, is he puts this little dot, which shows us that the head is tilting forward or back, and he uses that to talk to himself about where the head is. And so I'm just going to do another one over here. I'm looking for the shoulders, and let's say this guy over here is looking in, he's turned in that direction. And I'm going to have this guy over here turned in the opposite direction. So here's the space, a gesture for what a head will be, and I'm going to put the center line in, and that starts to tell me he's looking this way. Okay, so then I'll make a character in the middle, and here's a character in the middle, and he's looking right at us. So you see how we have these three people, and they're all looking in really, really different directions. Okay, so we've got the basic volume, the basic scale, we've got the basic character of each pose, and now we're going to go a little further into the drawing. So starting with this one, what I might do now is I'd start to say, okay, so I'm going to consider this the essential volume of the cranium, and then I'm going to start to suggest the volume of the jaw. Now, one of the things that's nice about the volume of the jaw is that it has a lot of squares in it, right? So with this one, if I simply draw a straight line, like in that direction. Now watch, I want to draw a straight line in that direction, and I'm thinking of here a line that will in some way, now this line has to stay really, really limber and really movable, right? But this line will in some way help me go from here to the bottom of the head, okay? That and across the front plane of the jaw, okay? So I'm going to go then looking for my way down to it, and here's the back of my jaw, I can imagine, looking for my way down to that plane of the jaw, looking for my way down to that plane of the jaw. Okay, the next thing that I want to do is I want to say, okay, the plane, the positioning, the mass of the nose and eyes. And so if I go from here, I can start to say, okay, here's halfway. And if I come halfway down, and I start to say, okay, now the brow, above the eyes, the brow has this squared off region. And so if above the eyes, I let the brow going from the top corner of the brow right there, and just below that, I don't want to go too far with that, but just below that is a shadow. Okay, I can start to express that. So here, going from here to there, halfway, here's halfway, come forward, and above halfway is where the brow is, where I find the brow. And I'm going to tick inwards, and I'm going to throw a tiny little bit of a shadow in there, okay? So over here, here's the top of my head. Here's the bottom of the head, halfway. Here's a halfway line. And a lot of the times, one of the things that's really complicated, we have to really practice this, is a lot of what we end up doing now is, see, this is a cylinder, and if I want to mark, if I go, here's the cylinder, if I look for halfway right here, where is halfway over here? See, halfway is up higher, right? And so that becomes like a really important, that becomes a very, oh, you can't see it. See, that becomes a really important skill for us, being able to make cross contour lines and mark halfway points and know where we are in a sort of three-dimensional turning space. And a lot of times that just takes practice. You know, it's like it builds from doing cross contour lines. So I've got the brow suggested, and the brow is suggested by a straight line. I've got the shape of the cranium suggested, and now I might say, okay, let's say that this is the front right here, and if I'm going to look for the back, where is the back going to be? So I've got, the center line is here, so the center line is not on the side. If the center line was on the side, I know that there's an overall proportion of the head which is akin to a square, but in order for it to be that square, I have to be looking at it in full profile. This is not full profile, so this is going to be smaller than a square. Like, it's going to be taller than a square would be and shorter this way, less wide. And if I start to think, okay, this might be about where the front of the ears are, and here's the brow, and if I go halfway down from there, the nose could be in here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to indicate a mass for the volume of the end of the nose, a little bit of a shelf underneath that. Okay, so here, halfway from here to there, and I'm going to indicate a circular mass, okay, and a little bit of a shadow underneath that. And then from there to there, I go down halfway, and that becomes underneath the bottom lip. So I am going to indicate that's a little shadow that the bottom lip is throwing. And that's the upper lip. Okay, so I'm going to do the same here from there to there, halfway down, bottom of the lower lip, bottom of the top lip. Okay, over here, here's the eyes, halfway down from here to there. It's going to be the nose, and it's going to go around the form, but here's the mass, the volume of the nose. And from the eyes, because remember the eye sockets were shaped like that, right? So from here, this eye socket, I'm going to take it and turn it in like that, and I'm going to do the same in there. And that starts to give me the plane that the eyes end up sitting in, and there's the plane that these eyes end up sitting in, and here is the plane. That's that under-facing plane that the eyes are sitting in, and then this rounds over towards the nose in here. Okay. From the cheek, if you drop down from the cheek at an angle like that, and if you come across from the lips at about like that angle, that gives you where the back of the jaw is, right there like that, and then the jaw comes up into the ear. Okay, so there's the ear, and this gives you a really nice representation of that plane right there. And so I can go, say from, I'm going to be looking to go back from where the lips are. If I go back from where the lips are, and from here over like that, and then here's my cheekbone, it cuts down to there. This goes like that. Here's my cheekbone, it cuts down to there. This is all a downward facing plane in here. That's all downward facing plane. So if I'm in here, brow ridge, down from the brow ridge into this plane. Okay, here's that plane. Here's that plane. In from the brow ridge. Okay, now bottom of the nose. From the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin, halfway takes me below the bottom lips. Okay, so the bottom lip, top lip. This direction, same direction here. It's being able to keep all of those things lined up that really makes this work. Okay, from here back, this part back, corners of my lower jaw. So here's the corners here, here's the corners of my lower jaw. I'm looking for the corners of those jaw, of that jaw, coming upwards over to where the ear goes wrapping around the form here. Remember, here's a cylinder, and I've got the nose here and the mouth here, and in order to locate the ear, I've got to cross contour around the form, okay? Here's the brow, cross contour around the form, and the ear goes there, okay? So I'm going to cross contour around the form from the brow and from there, and the ear goes here, okay? So cross contour, there's the ear. Now this one, I don't have to cross the contour because it's straight on and it's easy. And here's my ear. And there's my ear. Okay. Brow, the ridge here, remember this ridge? Upwards, hairline, upwards, hairline, upwards, hairline, okay? Chin, neck, neck, inwards, inwards. Okay, neck. The neck is a cylinder. Shoulders, shoulders, shoulders. Notice how this, with the overlap here, notice how that sets that part of the head back. Just having this overlap kind of nestles those forms into one another. Okay? Okay, so this is how to get an overall sketch of the head. This is like overall sketch with gesture, with proportion. These could be two guys. This could become a woman. Here would be how to make it a woman. I want to thin the neck. I want to make the jaw smaller, a little finer. Okay? And if obviously, like, she can have any haircut she wants. Okay. Okay.